happy Sunday to you. This is Serenity Sunday, right? This is a time for each and every one of us to breathe in and breathe out. And that's what I want us to do tonight. I want us to think about the benefits of deep breathing and how that can improve your reaction to the environment around you. But did you know it can also help with blood pressure concerns, even with blood glucose concerns? We send out signals every second we take a breath in and we take a breath out. In fact, where you take your breath in and where you take your breath out matters. You know, we often will have people, and you'll notice people, they have a tell about them. When they are overly stressed, you'll find themselves put their hand on their heart. They may put their hand on their belly. And there's one of two reasons why individuals will do that. Now, they'll do things like this, they'll do all kinds of things. It's not one or the other. But when someone is breathing from their chest, they are breathing usually short. They're not full breaths. They're not the kind of breaths that are going to bring us into a grounded position. But those that have practiced putting their hand on their belly, even over their solar plexus, do very well at finding a grounding position quite quickly. Now, why did I think this was a topical way to be for Serenity Sunday? Well, because for some of us, deep breathing, taking a breath, taking time to contemplate is not a part of our day-to-day routine. It may not be a part of that very fast-paced world that is coming at you. And so you may find yourself in a more tense position. You may find yourself a little less open to change. Someone, including yourself, might describe you as inflexible, right? And part of the reason why we find ourselves in a space of inflexibility is because we have a hard time even thinking about what else might be out there, right? When we're like this, when we're holding tight, do we also feel like we're in control, right? When something is flexible, when something is flexing, right? When something is fluid, and we haven't found our flow, we end up really holding on for dear life. So our first practice for tonight is to consider right now thinking about where we're holding our attention and is it time to let go, right? Now, there's a second secret reason why I wanted to talk about letting go, finding flow, doing this through a deep breath, a breath that comes from the solar plexus or from the belly, not from the chest. And I'll tell you my secret. The secret is that last night I didn't nail it, in my opinion. When we met for our 28 days of health, there were things I still wanted to say. And yet, after 22 minutes, still had not gotten it out, right? I had asked you guys to contemplate the last 13 days, the last 3 weeks, the last 30 days, or even 3 years. And is there something that you've noticed that you don't want to be without, that you're going to continue to do that practice? And I wanted to share with you one of those for me, right? And I went to bed last night and I thought, I didn't do that. You know, and there's that angel on your shoulder that says, you're doing so well. And then there's that devil on the shoulder that says, you're not doing as well as you set out to do. And I really want to caution us from these voices, because it's so easy to go down that rabbit hole and think about the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, right? Instead of, did we set out in whatever endeavor to do our very best? Did we set out in our endeavors to really create health for those around us, or good well-being for those around us? Were we intentional in our words? Were we intentional in our actions? So that is going to be our second lesson. It's not just identifying if today you're holding tension, right? or if you're beating yourself up about something that you wanted to do but didn't do, or maybe something just didn't go as smoothly as you wanted it to go, right? So we're going to find ways to kind of let that go, find our flow, and forgive ourselves because you are worthy. That's what my t-shirt says. It says, I am enough, right? And I want to remind you of that. You are enough. But there's a critical piece in creating intention. There's a critical piece in creating well-being. And it's also, well, I shouldn't say also, it's being honest. It's being honest with yourself, right? Because I could have said, well, I mean, I'm going live every night, and so isn't that good enough, right? And they get a lot out of me, or I give a lot to people. And maybe you've said that to yourself, right? Where you say, good enough. But in the back of your mind, you know that that's not the way you live your life. In the back of your mind, you know that you've got a different intention, right? And so I often joke, if you have to ask yourself for permission for snacks or for a certain food product, right? If you have to ask for permission, if it's not just naturally like, yeah, I can eat that, right? If you have to stop and ask yourself, can I eat that? Should I eat that? How much of that should I eat? Right? Then you already know the answer is no. So we should listen to this voice and be honest, right? And that honesty, we could use a different word for that. Another word for that could be accountability. When we do make mistakes, when we don't knock it out of the park, right? We could do a better job at being honest about that and saying, I might have done my best. I feel like these are some of the mistakes that I made. This is how I would have done it differently now on the rewind, on the replay, and I'm going to seek to be better. We can only seek to be better. We should not spend time on the mistakes. We should not spend time on our failures, except to learn from them, except to say, what is it that I could take from that mistake, that misstep, that would create something good in the future, or I could share with another person to help them through a journey. So there's a couple of things I want to go over here. Maybe some things that you can repeat for yourself that help you create wellness in your mind, right? I often encourage people to find that place, anchor in what is meaningful to you. I'm going to share a book that I think everybody should get, whether you want to read it or you are someone that listens to things from an audio standpoint. A book that I think each and every one of us are better off doing, and this may surprise you, what I'm about to say, but a man named Jocko Willink, a Navy SEAL, wrote a book called Extreme Ownership. And in this book, Extreme Ownership, he goes through the tenets, the principles of being accountable to oneself, which makes you accountable to your community, which makes you a better human, which makes you a better community member, a better member of the tribe or the village, right? In Extreme Ownership, he talks about the importance of not letting emotions, including the ones that beat yourself up, get away from you. That leaders that create great followers, or leaders that create great armies in his case, or great Navy SEALs, more appropriately in his case, are Navy SEALs that can accept their mistakes and strive to do better, right? Those that can identify what their best is, and those that say, I set out to do my best, I made a misstep, and this is what I would do differently in the future. It comes down to these, and I want to anchor this in, it comes down to some of these types of statements when you feel like beating yourself up. Stop arguing about what a good man is, right? Stop arguing about what makes a good man. Just simply step out and be one. Study the words of other people and learn from their words, learn from their wisdom, learn from their mistakes, right? We often tell people to spread kindness. What I want you to think about doing in being the very best that you can be is to first be kind to others, but be strict with yourself. Have a set of principles in which you follow to help you achieve your goals. And the reason why this is so important, right? Whether we're just talking about it on Serenity Sunday, we're talking about coming back from a misstep, something you wish that you had done differently or had done better, right? Is not just to find that honesty or that accountability in us, which is quite reflective to who you are to other people. And that really is striking a very inspirational tone. But it also allows you to create your own set of principles without being hyper emotional about, even some people would say that you find that humility and you're comfortable in your humility, right? That is where we're at tonight. And yet, I appreciate, I'm not even going to say better than most, because who am I to say better than you, right? I appreciate, for me, that sometimes those darker thoughts can get in the way. And we can get overwhelmed with what we're supposed to do, what we said we would do, right? And for that reason, you may feel like I don't feel like I'm there yet. That sounds inspirational. That sounds like something I want to create, but it's aspirational, right? It is a little bit further outside of my reach than just sitting down with those words and saying, I guess I'll do better next time. And damn it, I mean it, right? So now what I want you to do, this third principle, beyond honesty and accountability, right, is to just simply sit down. You can leave your eyes open, you can leave your eyes closed, but you should, on a daily basis, get into a comfortable position. If it makes sense for you to focus on a dot on the wall, right? A blank wall, an image on the wall, right? Don't focus on clutter, right? Don't look at a cluttered desk. Or if it helps you to close your eyes and find that light that's behind the eyes and look at that space, do this on a daily basis. And and while that what I've just described is a meditative practice, or the beginning rather of a meditative practice, don't let the word meditation stop you. I find that too many people do not allow their mind to be quiet. And what I mean by this is that they say, well, I'm not doing it right. They won't sit to meditate. They won't sit to think. They won't sit to be introspective because their concern is that they're not doing it correctly. Because there are not tangible benefits when you sit down to doing this, right? You will not see the immediate benefit of doing this. Your mind will be racing all around you. And that's simply a cluttered inbox, right? So the first rule, if you've never sat down to be thoughtful, right? Because your schedule, quite frankly, is not going to allow you to do that. Even a few minutes. And what we're going to learn here is anytime, anywhere. Sit, close your eyes, keep them open, whatever makes you feel comfortable. And don't think. Don't think about anything. Don't put any effort into this. Whatever comes, comes. Whatever thought is popping in, that may be something worth paying attention to, or what you'll be served at doing is asking yourself, where did that thought come from? And where did that thought go? Because now I'm talking about where did the thought come from? And now something else is in my mind, right? Let them go. You were simply cleaning out your inbox. as we go about life, we know that things are going to come at us. Things come at us that we hold on to, we put a pin in, we say, I'm going to come back to that later, right? Just right now, let's just do my little personal inventory. How many of you have taken a screen capture, or 1,000, right, of an inspirational quote, of an inspirational image, of a recipe, of a funny meme, and you're going to do what? You're going to come back to it later. You're going to share that with someone later, right? I would venture to guess most of the people tonight that are gathering with us have to simply, they're just waiting for the upgrade on their phone because they need more memory. Because they're like me, they're like you, and they're not getting back to that stuff, right? Um, what that means to us is that we have intentions to do things, but we often find ourselves on to the next thing. And part of what creates this is a lack of creating that space within our day in the beginning, where we spend time to let the inbox get uncluttered and decluttered. Anything can come in. If you feel like you want to direct this better, concentrate on the breath, breathing in and breathing out. You're not counting in, you're not counting out. It's not about 7 seconds in, 9 seconds out. It's just about the breath and using the breath as an anchor. Breathe in, breathe out. I'm talking right now, so I can't do it. Breathe in, breathe out. If it helps you, just count the breath. 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3. Don't worry about how long the breath is. Don't worry about how long the breath out or exhalation is. Some of them are going to be longer and some of them are going to be shorter. What I want you to create is no effort. You're just going to do this and there will be no effort. The main idea is to let all the thoughts, the whatevers, they come in and you slowly let them go. And they're going to show up tomorrow. They are going to show up tomorrow. But after 60 days, you'll clear through so many things that decided to bring themselves to your attention. Not necessarily your things to do list, but that will happen. But things that are sitting back here that you need to process through, right? Not in some dramatic way. You just needed to have given that some attention and it will then float away. You'll know what to do with it because it may revisit you. But in doing this, what we take are those thoughts that revisit us and berate our, the ones that are constantly making us feel like we're berating ourselves, and we process through them. It's not to say some thoughts are not going to show up again, right? But you just breathe through them the way you did the last time and they start to get processed. And we spend less time on pinning the bad thought when we do this because we're just going to let it go. We're not going to do what? Put any effort into this. Meditation, deep breathing, mindfulness, right? This is basically just looking at your own thoughts. Like you would watch anything outside of you and notice it. Let's use anxiety as an example. We often say things to ourselves like, I'm feeling really anxious. And the way we change that language with mindfulness so that we can get through our day is to say, I'm noticing a feeling of anxiety. I'm gonna step back. I want to look at that. What is making or creating this feeling of anxiousness or anxiety? I no longer accept that this body or this mind is anxious. What I'm noticing is something outside, right? I'm noticing that there's some anxiousness. I'm noticing this, but I don't accept that I am anxious. I don't say this gives me anxiety or create that space around that, but say I'm noticing some anxiety. And that is, I'm noticing some anger. I'm noticing some hesitation here, right? Because that's almost as powerful, if not more powerful, in recognition. Because if you're noticing some hesitation, there's something that you want to be listening for, right? Your mind, your body, your universe, your guide, your spiritual self is telling you something. That which is connected is telling you something. And it makes it easier when you feel that connection to say no to the things that do not serve you. And in all honesty and accountability, principle number 2, say no to the things that you're not good at. It is a good space to be if I'm asked to do something and it's just simply not my forte, to say, that's really not where my genius lies, right? I may be able to edify someone in that moment. I am most definitely in that moment not letting someone down. And I think too often we think that we are letting someone down, right? Take it from me, someone that has a hard time saying no. You're not letting someone down when you say there is someone better to execute this, and we should find them. And I'm on board helping that happen, moving that forward, filling in where it's appropriate, where it is in fact my strength, right? Because to try to do something that you're not good at simply because you made some I'm not going to use the word promise, but you've made that known to another person that you're going to do that, and to fail in that endeavor, to leave them short or hanging, right? You don't need that t-shirt and I don't need that t-shirt, right? In fact, if we go back and we think about it, I've got that t-shirt. I don't want to do that again. Been there, done that, as they say, right? So create that space of honesty and accountability for yourself as well, not just after the fact, but in the moment. And that's one of the things that you're going to find is somewhat of this mindfulness, whether you call it a meditative practice, a spiritual practice, a thinker's minute, right? A mindful minute. Basically, you're going to be able to start to do that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, right? Meditation for most is not a sit down situation. It's not sit down, close your eyes activity. It is actually being able to step back in the moment and say, I'm noticing something. And now we're back to the beginning of those tells, right? Find out if you have one. I'll tell you what mine is. You'll know when I'm nervous. You'll know when I'm trying to, or when I'm noticing that nervousness or that there's a lot at stake and I want to do well. And so I'm doing what I can to be well in that moment. I will always put my hand on my lower abdomen. It is a space of comfort for me. It is something I probably gathered from my mother rubbing or tracing her fingernails across my back, or laying in her lap with her hand on my belly. There's probably something rooted in why that is my space of, okay, I'm calm, right? So if you right now need something that creates that calm, that allows you to stop, take a minute, notice what you're feeling, notice that thought, right? As opposed to identifying with that thought, find one of these for you, right? Whether it's your hand on your lower abdomen, whether it's your hands in a place of peaceful repose, whether it's something that you would appreciate that someone that's not going to be overly emotional or highly reactive to do, right? So we think of maybe a more demure hand position. I think those are all brilliant because these can be not your tell, these can be that reminder, that bit of that device that you use to anchor in a thought, a feeling. And in this case, that feeling is I'm noticing something, right? Um, there are other ways that you can do this, that you can find, and I think this is an important, not so much delineation, but many people will think of their physical body as very different than their mental, emotional self. And the two are so interconnected. They cannot be teased apart. And that's why I let you know that blood sugar, or rather, a deep, mindful breath, breathing in and breathing out, deep diaphragmatic breathing, breath from the diaphragm, belly breath, right, as opposed to short chest breathing, is capable of sending out signals that lower blood pressure, that keep blood sugars within healthy ranges, that manage head tension, that can have a profound effect on the perception of pain or discomfort that we notice. The physical self is not absent from the mental, emotional self. And yet, we may find that some of these mental, emotional targets do not give us the quick access to healthy blood pressures, healthy blood glucose, um, um, remedy for discomfort, head tension, those sorts of things, better night's sleep, right? And so you may think about that kind of de stress solution. Because if breath can have an impact on the body, then many of the nutrients that we take in, right, are going to be able to just the same have an impact on the physical as well as the mental body. Nobody argues that a diet rich in color, a diet with appropriate fat and protein and micronutrients, these vitamins and minerals, right? Food in its natural state. Nobody argues that that type of diet is um, is part of healthy living and reduction of disease. And so we just need to go one step further and appreciate that magnesium, whether it's magnesium glycinate, a magnesium citrate, a magnesium gluconate, magnesium glycinate is is magnesium bound to a glycine amino acid, and that is very, very helpful for keeping our mindfulness about us, not just the cardiovascular or blood sugar benefits from magnesium, and those are a part of magnesium's superpower. But glycine is an amino acid that calms the brain. Magnesium, or rather, glycine is an amino acid that can create that space of calm because it is a component of neurotransmitters that create calm in the brain. So when you have, for example, something like the isotonic magnesium, which is magnesium glycinate and magnesium citrate, what you have is a body and mind solution. Citrates are very beneficial on muscular health, on cellular well being, while glycinate is profoundly beneficial for relaxation, including muscular relaxation, but also relaxation in the brain. We can get to what we're trying to create with healthy breathing, with thoughtful words to ourselves. We can get deeper into some of that practice quickly by using things like ashwagandha or rhodiola in anti stress botanical remedies, whether it's Bliss anti stress, TLS-X, ACTS stands for adrenal, cortisol, thyroid, and stress. Whether we're looking at omega 3 fatty acids, again, profoundly beneficial in the way the brain utilizes inputs. Inputs and outputs have everything to do with healthy neurotransmission, reduction of many of the things that would otherwise clog up that synaptic function. And, whether we're thinking about elevated blood sugars or we're thinking about an environment of inflammation, those things are not helpful to the brain. And yet, Omega-3 fatty acids are the way they're incorporated into the brain, the way certain tissues in the brain, including emotional centers in the brain, use EPA for those transmissions so that we don't feel like this all the time. And so, what I want to encourage you to do is to pay attention, notice if you feel like you're like this. Be honest with yourself and others. You may use the word accountable. Be accountable to yourself and others, right? Be honest enough to tell people, including yourself, when you can or cannot do something. Create an anchor in your day that allows you to take that moment and notice what is going on. Whether it's a hand on your belly, right? It's hands in some repose. It is an openness to that which is around you, right? Start to notice what works for you, right? That is something I often say you should share these types of things with other people. But this is one, if you want to keep it private. I know I told you about my hand on my belly. I'm comfortable with you guys knowing that. You may notice it more often than you want to. You won't be able to unsee it now, but just know that when you see me doing that, what I'm telling you is that I am doing my very best. That's how important this is to me. That's how important you are to me. That I put my hand on my belly to do my very best. Find that thing which pulls out your very best, right? If it doesn't come to you tomorrow, it doesn't have to come to you tomorrow. This, as they often say, you can't sprint a marathon. Just be good to yourself. Until I get to talk to you again, go be healthy, go be brilliant.